Hey guys, here for the season finale of The Exorcist, Season 1, Episode 10, Chapter 10, Three Rooms. And guys, I was obviously very excited for this episode. I've really enjoyed the season, as you guys know, but I really didn't know what was going to happen here because we kind of already had our big, epic battle with Episode 8. That really was the big epic battle. That was really a precursor to the real final battle, so I really didn't know what we were going to get here. And I have to say that though this finale I think was definitely familiar, this still was a damn good finale. I mean, they did a really good job of wrapping everything up and really just concluding every single arc that we've been leading up to. You really did feel the epicness of it all. It was very creepy. It was also very character driven, and in general was just a really great finale. Like I said, it was a little bit familiar, but for the most part, I really did love this episode. But let's just get right into it. I really do want to talk about this one because there is a lot to talk about. A lot did happen in this episode that I definitely do want to get into. So we start off right off the bat, and the way this episode is done is really cool. We have three big, we left off in the last episode. We have three big things going on, and throughout this episode, that's basically this episode, is that those three things go on. We see three life or death scenarios play out, and they get solved throughout the course of the episode. But let's just get right into it. We see Henry, Kat, and Casey. They're wanting Father Tomas to help their mom. The young priest, as we know, showed up at the Rand's house just as Angela, now integrated with Pazuzu, was choking Casey as a punishment for her family's disobedience. And Angela lets Father Tomas know that there is no saving Angela, that Angela's gone. She's not, she's left, and wants to know how far Father Tomas is willing to take this, and he's willing to do whatever is necessary. But the second he begins to pray, she knocks him out as easily as if he's just a fly buzzing around her head. And I mean, you can really see that Pazuzu is a lot stronger this time around, and she plants images in his head, making him believe he's back in his childhood home. And Marcus joins him in the vision, warning him that he stepped in it this time. So that was definitely very interesting to see. And a lot of this episode are these dream sequences that Pazuzu does to torture either Angela or Tomas. And the way that is shown in this episode really adds the emotional depth of it all, and I definitely really did like that. But we see there are citizens gathered on the streets of Chicago along the parade route preparing for the Pope's visit, and that as well, I think the tension is just as heightened there. Just as, we're on the edge of our seat, not knowing what's going to happen to the Rance family, I was just as interested in what was going to happen to the Pope, because we know that Maria and Simon, they're planning on killing the Pope. All the devil worshippers, they're planning on killing the Pope, and we really don't know if that's actually going to go well. And they did a really good job of heating up that tension and really just building us to that final conclusion, which, like I said, I think this episode did extremely well. So elsewhere, Brother Simon, Maria, and the rest of the Devil's faithful followers prepare to use the ashes on Marcus, because as we know, they're trying to get Marcus to possibly join their convent and maybe even start praying in, to the devil and everything. But Maria protests, saying that they were meant for her, but Brother Simon doesn't care. He treats her like dirt. Simon takes the hood off Marcus, who sees his friend, Father Bennett, is also tied to a chair. So I like that we see that Bennett is in fact still alive. Like I mean, he was a badass, so I'm not surprised that he was able to get out of this so well. And Brother Simon addresses the kidnapped priest, proud to have grabbed the special security liaison to the Vatican and Rome's greatest living exorcist. He tells them that they can integrate all of their volition or die. It's their choice, and he then slices Father Bennett's arm, then marks this so they can both feel what it's like to be dying, telling him to decide quickly. And this is a pretty life or death scenario. I mean, either they are forced to pray to the devil, or they're just gonna die. So they really have no choice here. I mean, both choices are horrible, but one is a lot worse than the other. So I think it was definitely interesting the way they set that up. But now we're back in Father Tomas's vision. He's aware that this isn't real, and I like that. I like that he knows that this isn't really happening. The demon posing as Marcus warns him integration is permanent, and I like that Marcus was less of a demon and kind of more of his evil, like his conscience, the one that he's been listening to, the ones that make him make all these bad decisions. The guilt's really weighing on Tomas heavily, especially in these last three episodes, and that has never been more prevalent than in this episode. I mean, that really is what Marcus represents. He represents all the sins that Tomas has really committed, and he reminds me he's not an actual exorcist, that he's just signing himself up to be. And while Marcus and Tomas talk in the vision, back in the Rand's house, Angela places a large knife in Tomas's hand. He's obviously still passed out, and in the vision, Marcus tells Tomas to wake up now or he's going to die. Unfortunately, Tomas doesn't know how to wake up. He pulls himself out of the vision. He looks down, sees the knife in his hand, and it's a pretty horrifying sight. Just waking up, seeing this knife in your hand, not really knowing what's happening there. And like I said, I do like the way that these Marcus visions kind of propel the rest of this episode, in the way that very much gets Tomas to really face what he's been dealing with, because, his guilt has really been as big as a part of this as the demon has. Like I've said, a lot of the show are people dealing with their own personal demons, kind of like Outcast was. The difference is that Tomas's inner demons are much bigger than just, possession. These are things that he really can't take back, that he kind of wants to, but in reality, he really can't take back, and it's kind of hard to see. So, definitely, that was interesting to see. But Angela happily announced that the Pope will die in front of millions of viewers that very day. The world is going to change because of it, and she can take advantage of the new opportunities that will be presented if she kills her family. And Henry tells her he's going to kill her because there's no other option. He has to kill her. And Kat says that Marcus will find her, reminding the thing now inside her mom that Marcus kicked its ass once before. He can, in fact, do it again. I like that Kat has this resilient faith in Marcus, that she knows that he's going to be the one to save the day. But as we know, Marcus can't save them, and that's what makes this episode that much stronger. Is that at this point, Marcus can't save them because he's in as much, treacherous territory as Tomas and the Rance family are. So Angela tries to slap Kat, but her hand freezes before she can hurt Kat, and inside her body, the demon has figured out Angela has hidden away part of herself, and we start to realize where Angela really is, because, of course, Pazuzu saying that Angela, she's integrated in me, and that Angela's gone, but in reality, we see it's the same place she's buried deep down inside that Regan hid when he possessed her. So that was very interesting to see, that she's in that exact same spot, which would make sense because this is where she hid the first time around, and obviously she's not being possessed again, so, she's gonna hide there again, because that was the thing that saved her last time. And the conversation between Angela and Pazuzu plays out with Angela peeking out her bedroom door, and their scenes are just so well earned. I mean, we have been building up to this all season long, and what I love about this episode is that there's really nothing to build upon. I mean, we've known everything they've been building up all season. There's been so much buildup of all of this that now they can just go for it. And they really did such a great job fleshing out this very tense relationship. I mean, Angela's peeking at her bedroom door. Pazuzu approaches her in the hallway, fingernails razor sharp, leaving scratch marks on the wall. I mean, the effects on Pazuzu, I could not think of a creepier demon. I mean, this demon is fucking terrifying. Definitely someone you don't want to mess with. Pazuzu calls out to Angela, but she shuts him out, warning her if she doesn't let him into her hiding place, he will in fact torture her family. And I like the way that he's doing this basically to guilt her into letting him into her head. That's what this is all about. The only reason he's going after her family is basically to just just to egg her on further and further and further, and use that kind of as a way to get her to let him in, which is obviously, we know what Pazuzu's actual plans. He wants to take full ownership of Angela's body, just like he wanted to take full ownership of Casey's body when Casey was possessed. So I thought that was definitely interesting to see. But inside Father Tomas's vision, Marcus calls himself the voice in the back of Tomas's head, and Marcus reminds Tomas of all the lies he's told and that God doesn't want him after what he's done. And yeah, I mean, I really do think that Marcus has a point here. Yeah, this is obviously the demon getting into his head, but, he's not wrong. I mean, after everything that he's done, why would God really want to look Tomas in the eye? Even though Tomas does very much care about God and has pledged so much allegiance to God, we know that in reality what Tomas has done is completely unholy and is not at all what a priest should do. And his family didn't want him to be in the Vatican, and he sees his dead grandmother in the kitchen, watches as she suffers through the end stages of her life, and it's a very sad scene because, as we know, this is what got Tomas to start becoming a priest. The first thing we saw in the beginning of the series was him talking about how his grandmother is the one that motivated him to become a priest, and it's really all led to this, and I like that we finally got back to that here, because yeah, that's what got us here in the first place, that he saw his grandmother die. That's what led him here, and that is essentially the path that Tomas has been going to all season, is, trying to, fulfill the life that his grandmother wanted. But he's starting to realize, how torturous this really is. And, he's seeing her suffer through the end stage of her life. And he begins praying while Marcus whispers in his ear about the weeks it took his grandmother to die. So all of the worst things that happened to Marcus are happening to him now. There's so much riding on that he has to face, and there's really nothing he can really do about it. So Marcus says the cats ate Tomas's grandmother's face, that everything he believed about her death as being swift and peaceful was in fact a lie, and Marcus forces Father Tomas to look at his grandmother. She gasps for air in her bed, and he kneels beside her, and it's obviously very hard to watch. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this was very hard to watch. He holds her hand while Marcus asks if this suffering is what God wanted, and again, Fox goes very, very far with this episode, and I really did appreciate that. I like that they just went for it. Like, they didn't try to hold anything back. They went for the gore, they went for the grisly images, because again, this is the finale. You want to do as much as possible, and this episode really did that really well. And this is exactly, he has the suffering is what God wanted, because again, all the stuff that Tomas has had to face, would God really look him in the eye after this? So I thought that was definitely interesting to see. So Brother Simon watches the blood drips out of Marcus and Father Bennett. He taunts Marcus, asking why he would die for a church that doesn't care about him, and Maria warns Simon that the parade's about to start, but he's caught up in reminding Marcus how the church has constantly mistreated him over the years, and he even talks about Marcus's excommunication. It appears that Marcus actually might be breaking, and I really thought he was actually going to get through to him, because he then tells the story of the 6 blind men in the room, asking to describe an elephant that they're touching, and Marcus tells Brother Simon he won't break, revealing he saw the whole damn thing when he was 12 years old, which you remember this scene. This was like back in episode 2 when Marcus was, being trained in the church and everything. He did in fact see the elephant, as we know. He saw God, and now he's willing to die, not for the church, but for him, and it's this incredible moment of triumphance. Marcus the entire season has been very down in his luck. He's felt that he's, a man at the end of his rope. He even lost his job, just because, what he believed in, nobody else would, and I like that for the first time, Marcus is finally getting a victory. Like, this is finally him saying, look, I'm done with this. I'm finally going to take back, my religion. If you are upset that I, believe in God, then I'm the power of Christ overall, that will take hold of it. And I just thought it was a very nice scene of triumphance. I really did love it overall. Ben Daniels really did a great job here. But Simon picks up the ashes, invokes Vocare Pulver, and he blows the ashes into the air. The group leaves. The brother Simon doesn't allow Maria to go with them, and she's upset because she's actually the one that brought the Pope to Chicago. So that's very interesting to see. We find out that she wanted to be the one to kill him, and I like that we find out that Maria really wants to be on her. Like, as much as Simon wanted to be the one to kill him, Maria was the one that brought him to Chicago, and she wanted to be the one to really finish him off. So I thought that was definitely interesting to see, and I kind of did, I wouldn't say I felt bad for Maria in this sense, but I understood definitely where she was coming from. I understood why she wanted to kill the Pope, because, she brought him to Chicago, she wanted to be the one to kill him. And I thought they did a good job of really getting into the story very, very well. Like I said, they really do present this as 3 halves, and they did that very well within this episode. So then we get what is by far one of the creepiest and hardest to watch scenes we have ever seen on this show. I mean, this scene was pretty gruesome. We see Angela spins a hammer on the table. She's telling Regan to open the door and her family won't be harmed, and the hammer stops pointing at Kat. And Angela then makes Casey pick up the hammer and tells her to hit her sister as hard as she can on the knee. And if Casey doesn't do it, Angela will in fact tear Henry's arms off, and he screams, and they're literally pulled out to the side. Like, they are literally teared off, and you don't know if they're actually going to survive. And like I said, because of the fact that this is the second time that Angela's being possessed, and also the fact that we don't know if the show is getting renewed, everyone's life is really at stake here. You really don't know if Henry's going to get out of this, if Casey's going to get out of this, if Kat is going to get out of this. I really thought that someone was going to die here, but Henry tells him he loves him. Casey begs Angela not to make her do it, and Casey just can't, get herself to hit her sister. After everything she's done, she can't do it. So Kat grabs the hammer, hits herself on the knee, screaming out in pain from the blow, and again, just another great sisterly bond here. As we know, Kat told her, we're going to get through this together. And if it has to be through her own suffering, so be it. But I like the way that Kat did, in fact, save Casey in the end. As we know, Kat was the skeptic in this season. She didn't believe anything that was going on with Casey initially. But as, the season went on, she started to realize more and more of what was really happening. And I like that finally she is kind of taking back all of that. She's kind of doing this as a way to save Casey. And I really did like that, but she's screaming out in pain from the blow. No one should really have to go through that. I mean, seriously, that's pretty torturous, but Angela slash Pazuzu releases Henry's arms while in her hidden area deep inside. Angela begs Pazuzu not to hurt her innocent family. You know, she's trying to get him to let her out, but he just won't. And Pazuzu tells her she can't run. She can only open the door and give in completely, which we know she's not going to do, but it really is the only option here. The only way to save her family is to do the one thing that she really deep down is not comfortable with doing, which is in fact saving her family, which, you know, would do that, but it would involve Pazuzu taking full ownership of her body, which she, again, is not comfortable with him doing. But the ashes float in the air over Marcus and Father Bennett. The demon's whispering to Father Bennett. He's nearly ready to accept it, to just give in to the demon because there's really no other way to go. And Marcus, seeing how close his friend is into giving in, he taunts Maria. He says she's been left behind in the bench, calling her Renfield, which we all remember Renfield, the character from Penny Dreadful, as well as Dracula's human servant, and yeah, I would say that Maria is no better than Renfield, because she is giving into the devil, she's doing everything the devil's saying, she's giving into Brother Simon. I mean, she basically is Renfield, and Maria yells at Marcus to shut up. Marcus tells Maria she's afraid to take what's hers. She falls for it, the demon enters her body. Marcus releases himself from his restraints, and he and Father Bennett, while both in bad shape due to the bloodlust, are able to take out the two priests who are left behind Maria. Maria, foaming at the mouth, falls to her knees, and it's a really big scene. I mean, I really thought Maria was going to die here, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. But I did like the way that in the end they were able to save themselves, because again, their bond is stronger than anything else, and that's something that this episode really shows, that the bonds that these friends and this family has is stronger than any other, you know, any powerful demon-esque sort of thing. So over at the Rance family, we see Henry's tending to Kat's injury while Angela watches over the still unconscious priest. Marcus is still trying to get Father Tomas to announce the church in his vision as the knife remains clutched in Tomas's hand. And Tomas tries to wake himself up, but it doesn't seem to be working. Marcus holds Tomas's hand, moving the knife up towards his throat, and he's literally ready to just slit his throat there. But in the Rance house, we see Angela's watching Father Tomas bring the knife up slowly. The knife is at Father Tomas's throat. When Casey sees what's happening, she yells, "Wake up, wake up." You know, she's doing whatever she can to get him to wake up, and Marcus's eyes are now the eyes of the demon. Father Tomas hears Casey yelling off in the distance. He opens his eyes, and now he's kneeling in front of the altar at his church. He says, "Suicide's a mortal sin." He drops the knife, and Angela turns, stares at Casey as she picks up the hammer for round two. It's a very interesting, that line, "Suicide's a mortal sin," is very interesting. The way that we had that line there, I don't really know what that's really all about, but she picks up the hammer, she's ready for round two, and Father Tomas admits the demon version of Marcus that he has in fact sinned, and I like that. I like that he came clean here and said, look, yeah, I did sin, I did something bad, but I will move on from it, and I like that. And Casey tries to talk to her mom inside the demon, telling her to fight Angela, throws Casey down, telling her she's had enough of her, and is literally ready to just off Casey right then and there. Father Tomas continues to talk to Demon Marcus, admitting he wasn't there for his grandmother, thought himself to be special, he wasn't strong to deny Jessica or be honest with Angela when she asked for his help, and this again is very true, that he really was not strong enough to say no to her, because he just kind of gave in to her because he was too weak. He wasn't strong enough. And Angela, again, we remember that he did this for fulfillment. He did this to prove that he could accomplish something, that this was what he wanted to do. And even if he didn't really want to save Angela, he was just too weak to say no. That's why he just kind of said yes to everything, because he just can't say no in good, fashion. He just can't do that. But Angela pressed her fingernail into Casey's eye, which, again, very gruesome to watch. Father Tomas tells Demon Marcus he was all wrong. Father Tomas says he has love, hope, and faith. These are all strengths and make him what he is, an exorcist. That these aren't things that condemn him and make him, a sinner. It actually makes him stronger, because through doing these things, he did them all for good reason. He did them all in good respect, and now that he has said that, he can in fact overcome it and be an exorcist. That's what he's meant to be. He's not meant to be a priest, he's meant to be an exorcist, and I thought that was definitely interesting to see. But Father Tomas rises from the floor as the Rance family screams at Angela to let Casey go. She senses he's come back to the present, and she can't believe it. He begins exorcism again, holds up his crucifix, screams that the power of Christ compels her. Angela's thrown backwards through the air, lands hard on the floor. She sits up, licks the blood off her lips, smiling. Crashing noises and guttural moans can be heard throughout the house. Father Tomas continues the exorcism. The house begins falling apart around them. Henry helps Kat towards the door, but Casey turns around, heads back in the living room where Angela floats in the air. Father Tomas continues to pray, arm outstretched and holding up the crucifix. Angela growls and roars, and very slowly you can see that things are going to get back to normal. So on the streets of downtown Chicago, the crowds expand, prepare to watch the parade. The Pope's car approaches the crowd, two security guards in front. Marcus can be seen holding his bloody arm, stumbling through toward the crowd gathered behind the barricades, lying in the street. He's weak, falls to the ground, and we don't know if he's going to be able to save him. We really don't, but Father Tomas continues to try and rid Angela's body of the demon. Angela slaps him, knocking him into the ground. She tells him he's not a real priest, as now Casey, who picked up a Bible, is also beginning to pray. Henry and Kathy join her. They recite the Lord's Prayer. The hidden part of Angela that's inaccessible to Pazuzu hears her family praying, and this kind of gets her to finally wake up. We see disgraced priests are in the streets watching the parade as the crowd cheers. The Pope's car stops so he can wave at the crowd from inside. Then a loud buzzing noise makes those gathered cover their ears, and everyone other than those in Brother Simon's group is affected by it, including the security detail walking in front of the Pope's car. Eyes and ears begin to bleed. Again, really weird overall the way that was done. But at the Rance's house, the family continues to pray out loud, as does Father Tomas. He grabs Angela by the head. She continues to growl. We see the locked area inside of Angela Pazuzu is now banging on the walls in anger and frustration. Angela won't let him in, but then he stands up, says she's tired of spending her life looking over her shoulder. She won't watch him hurt her family anymore, and she won't let him win. She opens the door to secret area, tells him to come and get her, and meanwhile, we see Brother Simon approach the side door of the Pope's vehicle while the security personnel are still clutching their ears. One of his followers accompanies him. He moves closer to the car door. He begins laughing, looks at the Pope, and he knows he's lost. I think he knows he's lost here, and Angela's now locked up in an inner battle with the demon, beating him up. Her body's still struggling against Father Tomas. Father Tomas promises her he won't kill her. He swears he's going to save her, and it's a really powerful scene. You know, you see Angela very quickly is beating her childhood demon, the thing that has haunted her all this time, the thing she's strived and done everything she can to get away from. But Brother Simon puts his hand on the window, inches from the Pope's face. He says, "The morning star sends us greetings." Just then, Marcus arrives, responds that he sends his, slicing Simon's throat with his rosary. So Simon's dead, and he was in fact not able to save the Pope. The blood spurts everywhere, but the Pope is in fact unharmed, and I was happy to see it. I like to see that Marcus did, in fact, was able to kill Simon there. I kind of wanted this to be Brother Bennett that kills him, just because, like I said, Brother Bennett's kind of a badass, but I did like that in the end, Marcus was the one to kill him. It was a pretty sick kill overall, but the hidden part of Angela's kicking the demon's ass while Father Tomas is trying to save Angela's real body. The demon speaks, saying Angela can't do this because she's just a damn woman. And Father Tomas continues the exorcism. Angela's body lifts towards the living room ceiling. Inner Angela is made mincemeat out of Pazuzu, while Angela's body bends in half. Her family screams. Father Tomas cradles Angela's apparently lifeless body. Her face is very bloodied. Her eyes stare unseeingly at the ceiling. And Marcus looks in the Pope. He stumbles away as the disgraced priest turns and leaves. He knows obviously what's going down, so he obviously is kind of in a disgrace. But the noise stops. The security personnel are able to stand up. They surround the Pope's car as it pulls away, and Pazuzu then grabs at Angela's foot in the locked room, begging her not to walk away from him. She doesn't listen. She walks away. She closed the door behind her, leaving her to scream frustration and anger by himself. He's now shut in, that secret part of her buried way, way, way deep down inside. And finally, after almost a decade long, maybe even 2 decades, Angela's finally been able to conquer the demon. It is a true moment of triumphance, seeing her win in the end. I love seeing that. I love that Pazuzu is now trapped inside her here. It's a perfect way of keeping things open, but also a way of closing out one of the most impressive arcs the show has given us thus far. So Angela's eyes rid themselves of the demon's extra pupil and close. Her family race to her side. They cry over her body. Father Tomas grabs her hand, and it's a very powerful stuff. I like seeing that she's back to normal. I like seeing that she was, in fact, able to save her family, and I really did like that. But then we cut to days later. We see Marcus sits next to Casey on the stairs outside the Rand's house. He jokes about having to stare at her demon face for hours, telling her he prefers this version. She asks if he keeps tabs on the people he exorcised. He says some get better, some were in pain their whole lives because they didn't think the people would believe them. And Casey asks how to get past it. Marcus tells her she needs to remind herself it wasn't her fault. Tells herself she's still there, that the bastards don't get to win, and Casey worries that she's not strong enough. He tells her that he's never seen anyone fight longer or stronger, because as we know, Casey really has not been able to rid herself of this demon completely. She's been very, very reluctant about it. She really didn't know how to overcome it, but she's probably the strongest person he's ever met. They hug. Henry tells her it's time to go, and it's a really powerful scene. I like the way that in some ways Marcus and Casey were very similar. These are two people who needed to preserve faith. They finally got the faith they needed, and I like the way they kind of did help each other in the end. So Henry tells her it's time to go. Henry and Kat are by the car. It appears that they're all packed up and ready to move, and Henry then waves at Marcus. Marcus sheds a tear as Rand's family drives away, realizing that this is it, that they're not going to see them again, that that they are finally free and that they're able to face this, and I really did like that. But we see Marcus, Tomas, and Bennett. They meet at a restaurant, and a news reported footage from the attack of the Pope plays in the background. Marcus is surprised that Father Ben stuck around, and Father Bennett asks Marcus if he remembers the defacing of Bible is sacrilegious, because it is in fact sacrilegious. He obviously slit his throat with rosary beads, but Marcus corrects him, saying he's redacting it, not defacing it, and Father Bennett leaves, but not before telling Father Tomas and Marcus to try and stay out of trouble, because they always seem to find it. And it was a really nice scene. I like seeing these three come together. They've been very divided all season, so I like that these three did come together at the end. I really did like that. But Marcus and Father Tomas walk down the street. Marcus isn't really sure what's next for him or where he'll wind up, because as we know, he's still not a priest. He's still done with that, but he is in fact going to help Tomas if he needs it. And Father Tomas wants Marcus to stay and train him to be an exorcist, and I'm pretty sure this is where season 2 is going to go. That's how they set that up. And Marcus wants to know if Father Tomas really understands what he's asking. He tells the young priest that sooner or later he'll die with a demon standing over him, and Father Tomas claims that he knows the cost, that he knows that, he could end up exactly like the older priest from, the priest from, when Angela was Regan back in the 1970s. I can't think of his name right now, but as we know in the movie, that priest committed suicide, and I think that they're kind of setting up that Tomas is eventually going to have to face that same fate. And I think it's interesting that the way they're saying that up there. And I like that he knows what he's getting himself into. He doesn't care that this might not go the way he wants to. He's ready to face what he has to face, and he's ready to be the exorcist that he knows that he wants to be. And I really did like that. It's really the first time that Father Tomas has chosen to do something on his own and not been forced to do something because, A, he's too weak, 2, he doesn't really have any direction. Finally, he knows what he wants to do, and I like that he's finally realizing that. So elsewhere, Superintendent Jaffe gets in the backseat of a car next to Maria. Marcus asks why Father Tomas wants to be an exorcist, and Father Tomas says that when the demon died, just for a brief moment, he saw the true face of God. And Marcus says that that's how they get him. And Jaffe then asks Maria how she always managed to get what she wants, and Maria says they've had a minor setback. Jaffe reminds her that Simon's dead and Pope Sebastian's alive. Maria says that Simon got greedy and Sebastian was never the finish line, and they won't make that mistake again. So clearly they're not going to back down. There's going to be more going on with that, and I'm sure that's going to lead us to season 2 if there is one. But Father Tomas says he chose him. He and Marcus stroll off together down the streets, and we see, and I thought it was a really good scene, but it's not the ending. We see at the very end, Kat walks with a cane next to her sister. Henry waves from the porch, and Anna's actually there in a wheelchair. So I liked it in the end. Pazuzu kind of won. Even though she defeated Pazuzu, it did come with a price, and Pazuzu ended up crippling Angela, but she says she feels safe as her 2 daughters walk through the beautiful fall leaves, and it's the first time they feel like a content family where they finally get to be together. There's really nothing upending them, and it's a very satisfying end to an overall very surprising season of TV that I definitely really did love. So overall, guys, I really did love this finale, I have to say. I think that they wrapped up everything pretty well. I think that the story they told here was very well done. There were a couple open ends, but the big question really is, what is there going to be a season 2? Because I know this show has had really bad ratings, and that's understandable. I mean, this is on a Friday night. When you have a show on a Friday night, you're not really, getting your show the best ratings. Most people are out on a Friday night, or you're me and you're watching a movie, or you're just somewhere else, but most people are on a Friday night, most people are really busy, and this show, I think, does have a life somewhere. I think if this show gets canceled, it's going to go to, Netflix or something. A lot of people really loved it. In my opinion, it's the sleeper hit of the fall. I really think a lot of people need to watch this show more because it's a really great show. I was surprised by how great this show really turned out. I remember I was initially very skeptical about it. I never expected to be as high of the caliber that it was. I think this is right up there with Outcast, honestly. I really did love this show. I think this is a very well done, character-driven series that did things really well. My only real complaint with this season, if I really had to have one, is that while I do think that Maria and Simon, that whole plot was very well wrapped up, I do think we could have gotten a little bit more with them this season, and that's only if this is a one-off. If this is a one-off, I think that this wasn't as satisfying as it could be. We didn't really get to learn too much about their cult other than the fact they are devil worshippers, but I want to know more about the cult. I want to know more about, what their lifestyle's like, how they got to this cult, because we really don't know. We don't know how Maria got there. We don't know how Simon got there. I want to know that story, and I'm hoping if we do get a season 2, that's something that this season can in fact explore. Other than that, though, I really did love this season. I think it was overall really well done, and that is another reason why the show turned out as good as it did. But like I said, if we do have a season 2, the two things left open is, one, we're going to see more of Marcus and Tomas working together, which is something the creator said. They're the heart of the show. We're going to see them working together, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to see Tomas's journey to become an exorcist. I just want to see more with these characters. I definitely want to see what else they can do with them. There's still room to go with Tomas's story. There's still places to go with Marcus. We don't know where Father Bennett's going to go. I'm sure he's still going to be a part of it. There's no way we're not going to see Father Bennett next year. We're going to definitely see him. There's still places to go with Maria. We definitely see that there's definitely more aspects that Maria wants to go. That just because Pazuzu's defeated doesn't mean that there are going to be more enemies to defeat. There are more demons that they can conquer. There are more demons that they can use to torture Tomas and Marcus, and we don't really know where that's going to go. That's going to be very interesting. And the Rance family, are we going to see the Rance family maybe try to recover from the damage of what happened to them? Just because they're not possessed doesn't mean they can't be a part of this story, and I really do want to see them. I really loved Angela as a character. I loved Henry, Kat, Casey. I really do love all the characters on the show, and I really do want to see more of what they can do with them. I don't think this should be just a one and done. A lot of people are saying it should be, but I really want to see more of these characters. Even if it's just like a movie, I just want to see more of them overall, because what this show is able to accomplish in 10 episodes is astounding. I can't believe the show was able to do what it was able to do in 10 episodes. I'm surprised that a Fox show, a Fox horror TV show, did this so well. Never got cheesy, in my opinion. Always was very grounded, never got hokey, never got too convoluted. The only time it was convoluted was the whole thing with Maria, but I honestly did not think that got too convoluted in the end. I thought they wrapped everything up pretty nicely, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where else it could go with these characters. Overall, guys, I was very surprised by The Exorcist. By far one of the biggest surprises of the year. Will definitely be in my honorable mentions list, probably for best TV shows, and I am going to give The Exorcist Season 1 a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. This was a very surprising show that I really didn't expect much from going into it, but in the end gave me genuine scares, some really compelling characters, and some very good, interesting ends that really made me interested in what Season 2 may bring if that does happen. So over, guys, The Exorcist is now over. Let me know what you guys thought of this series overall. Do you think there's going to be a Season 2? If there is, where do you think we're going to go in Season 2? Will the Rance family still be a part of it? Will we see Brother Bennett again? What's going on with Maria? What do you think the next demon's going to be? Pazuzu, I think we're definitely going to see again. He's been such a substantial part of this universe that there's no way we're not going to see Pazuzu again. I don't know if he's going to be as substantial in next season, but I do think he's definitely going to be a part of next season. That's definitely going to be something. Maybe he'll just be like, maybe it'll be like Scream Queens, where Hester isn't, the main killer, but she's still part of, what's going on with the killers. I think it's kind of what it's going to be with Pazuzu is, like, maybe Pazuzu will be guiding the other demons. I don't really know. We'll have to see. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching all my reviews. I was very happy to see these reviews are very popular. You guys really do seem to love this show. And if you guys do love the show, let me know what you guys thought of this season. Love your thoughts on it. Did you like the way this wrapped up? Did you not like it? Where do you think we're going to go in Season 2? That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next, which will be for a movie review, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.